Okay, I don't want to make you self-conscious because it's not a bad thing. It's just an interesting thing. Look ahead again. You've got the deepest ear canal I've ever seen in my entire life.
How deep? Can you see through to the other side?
Like, look at this. All I can see is darkness.
Oh,
Fuck! Oh, God, that's exactly what Hitler would have known. Hey, I'm Nick.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Jessie.
And this is screenSAY. This is Jessie James, Geek and Gamer Girl from Twitch, from just generally the internet.
Yeah.
I assume you also have a house?
I do.
Do you want to tell the people where you live?
Not particularly, no. You nearly got me there.
Okay, so Jessie from somewhere. Today we are here having a chat along with our good friend Chris, the screenplay fish, aka Bass Effect, as named by Marty Draven. Bass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Nice,
I like that name for a fish. Today we are talking about whether or not games as a service are good for the future of the industry. This is a topic that's come up because I feel like this is a topic that comes up all the time, forever. And there's a lot of debate at the moment, particularly around the microtransaction loot boxes sort of thing. But I just want to, I'm going to quickly go top level. Games as a service. What we're talking about here, if you don't know, and you do know, you totally know because you're playing it right now and you hate it, is basically a game that is continually updated and running, and usually in the form of small content drops for small amounts of money. And it's a game that you never finish. You play
just never
forever.
ends. Never ever ends.
It's like a conversation with your mother. That's what it's like.
Sure.
It just
Mum
never
doesn't
ends.
charge me for topics though. She charges me for biscuits, but not for topics. So.
Wait, what?
Oh, we don't need to get into that now.
But my mum, right. Okay, so, but the kind of games we're talking about, off the top of the dome, I'm gonna name 3, you're gonna name 3, and then you'll name 3, because that's how many there are.
God.
Rainbow Six Siege,
He's taking mine.
Destiny, Hearthstone, go.
Star Wars Battlefront, Metal Gear, and Overwatch.
Oh no, Warframe. And 2 more.
Good work, Dan.
Pubg.
Yes, and the other one.
Fortnite.
There you go. We did it, we named the 9 games as a set. Let's just go. You
Me?
said to me this morning, you have a controversial opinion about this.
I love microtransactions. I think they're a great idea when they're done correctly.
I actually agree with you there. I think it's a very hard. There's some good things and some bad things on this topic.
God damn it, I thought that we would all have different opinions, and I too believe that games as a service aren't necessarily the end of the world that everybody thinks. Why do we feel like people hate them so much? Jessie?
I think it's more when you have to pay for progression that is the bigger deal. For me anyway, and I think that's what's starting to become a bit more of a thing in the last, even just 6 months to a year.
Like the pay-to-win sort of thing?
Yeah,
But do you think that's because developers are trying to get into that games as a service? So the one that springs to mind is Battlefront 2. That's just EA being like, we want to slice that pie. We want all that cash that's going, and it just feels really poorly handled.
Yeah.
And that's when you get stuff like that.
And also the game that they added it to feels like, sure it has a multiplayer component, but the Star Wars IP, you had this single player campaign. It feels wrong in that kind of game to be putting these hooks into it.
Yeah.
Because you go, oh no, it's, in the same way, for me, the most egregious one that came recently was the Shadow of War stuff, where you go, oh yeah, in the single player campaign, there is these elements of this games as a service, which I guess is more microtransaction-y there than necessarily like ongoing update content stuff. But it was like, that game does not need this new buzzword shoved into it.
The most interesting thing about the whole Shadow of War example is the whole back third of the game is built entirely around those microtransactions. You get to a point where spoilers, you push all the armies out of Mordor, and then at the end, they all come back.
Oh no.
And the only way to push them back out is to basically open up a bunch of those chests to get these high-level things, or to grind for like another 16, 20 hours. In a game that is not that fun to grind in.
See, I haven't played it, but a lot of my friends had, and they would have said it was almost their game of the year until you hit that point.
Yeah, exactly.
And it literally just was game breaking for them. It ruined it.
Yeah. And I guess it doesn't feel like that's the game that a developer sat down and intended to make. It really does feel like a studio, like a publisher thing. They just want to get that money. They want to, because they're already spending, like, budgets for games are astronomical, and you want to see a return on that. And it makes sense from a business point of view.
So I think that, for me, that's the core thing, right? That it feels as though we have these games that we all enjoy, and then on top of that, you have these publishers coming in and going, we want to make more money from this, so shove this stuff in there. But there are a bunch of games as a service out there, and I'm thinking about, like, Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone, I mean, pretty much all of Blizzard's games, now that you really think about it.
Blizzard in general.
Yeah, some of these are my favorite games of all time and that I'm currently playing right now. And the games as a service aspect is actually something that makes that game better.
Yeah.
That the constant drip feed of content is the thing that I continue playing that game for, because I'm not one and done with it. It's not a story-based game, so I don't need to just like leave it alone. The fact that I'm getting more Hearthstone card packs.
Yeah.
I'm getting new operators in Rainbow Six Siege. I'm getting all sorts of like Heroes of the Storm, weird new characters and skins and all that sort of thing. That's part of the exciting thing. And a developing game that's constantly changing means it's constantly challenging. So when you do it right, I actually think that it's a great new genre, not something that we should all be scared of.
Yeah, but I think those games excel because they were built from the ground up as a game, as a service.
Yeah.
Those are games as a service. And then when you start shoehorning that into games that aren't traditionally like that, that's when you start getting problems.
So they're kind of taking advantage of it. I think there's always been, as soon as MMOs were a thing, that's still considered a paid service. But they're maintaining servers and they're actually updating the game, and that's kind of a necessary thing for that ongoing game. And there's just so many games now that are online. Even Destiny 1, there were microtransactions, but it is an online game. It's an MMO game that people are paying one amount of money for and then expecting that they're going to be able to maintain servers, maintain events and things like that. And I think that I kind of do understand, and the MMO thing I kind of understand.
Thinking about it, the games as a service that I am drawn to the most are the ones that are free, and then I can put money into when I discover that I enjoy it.
Warframe is a very good example. For me, I think their kind of microtransaction system is brilliant, and it's supporting a game. You're getting really good stuff out of it, but it's all stuff that you can get for free. You're really just saving yourself time.
I guess it comes down to, the time versus the money investment.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to sink all that time in, you can totally get all those skins in Overwatch. If you want to sit there and play Overwatch for 8 hours a day, because I think that someone worked out the drop rate for a loot box in Overwatch, I think it's like 45 minutes of playtime.
Yeah.
And then, or you can just pay that $1.50 because you're at work all day, and then you can get that one loot box and maybe get what you want.
Yeah.
So that's what it comes down to. It's handling that time versus money investment. And you're appealing to two different crowds when it comes to loot boxes and stuff like that.
Do you think that, like, a lot of the outcry now then seems to be about the fact that the games as a service is something that we are applying to all games that come out going forward? I mean, Ubisoft came out a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, not only are we not going to make Rainbow Six Siege 2, but our plan for pretty much all of our games moving forward is that we want to move them into games as a service. There was actually a really interesting graph that they brought out, sort of like showing how their games make money. So if you take the first year that a game comes out, that's 100%, like it earns base 100% of its total income. For a not games as a service, for just a normal standard game that you finish, on the second year, it amounts to only 13% of that first year's sales for year 2. But as a game as a service, as a live game, 52% on the second year. They're earning half the amount of money they did the first year as opposed to 13%, because they're going, people are continuing to drip feed money into this, so this is a good money-making thing for us. I guess the thing there is when it works because the things that they're releasing over time and drip feeding us are things that we want to buy. And if it's something that I want to buy, then I don't necessarily feel like I have a problem with them doing it in the first place.
I think a game like Rainbow Six is a good example of that, though, because you can add maps, you can just add characters and keep building on the game. And in that sense, then I kind of am sort of happy to do that. But I think there's a lot of games where it's not really necessary. Like, there isn't that need to kind of be constantly maintaining the game, and I think that's where I'm happy to be paying for stuff, and I'm happy for microtransactions. But as soon as it's Destiny just making me pay $80 for an hour of campaign content for the DLC, then I'm sort of not.
Well, there's one thing we haven't covered here. I was reading an essay the other day by an indie dev, and he was saying...
Dan's so fancy, he can read.
Let me let me get this right. And he was saying that the problem with stuff like Steam Greenlight constantly updating games, being like, we're bringing out all these updates, games as a service, it's harming those kind of games, because when they release a game now, people are like, when are you going to update it next? When am I going to get my more content for free? And they're like, dude, I'm one person. I've been making this for 4 years. I'm done. That's it. The game is finished.
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing. I love games as a service, but I'm very concerned about what they could do for the investment in single player narrative based adventures. Because look at look at all the games that we thought we were going to be getting in what year were we in? 2018.
18.
I was expecting like crazy single player, massive Star Wars 1313, Nathan Drake in space, and Han Solo.
Yeah.
And now we've got Battlefront 2 with no pink Darth Vader skin because they're like, oh, it's not canon. Yeah, righto, mate.
I like how you self-bleeped yourself
Yeah,
right
no,
there.
yeah,
That was
that was from our EP, said no more swearing.
That's the work of an editor right there. I feel like that problem doesn't only apply to indie devs. Destiny is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Destiny, made by an enormous company. This huge game sells enormously, has this massive, angry fan base, but still a fan base. If you can't get out enough content fast enough, then people just fall off. Like Destiny 2 was their chance to go, all the problems we had with Destiny 1, we're fixing it all. And we're putting out the game that you all wanted, and it's gonna be like the best experience, and you're never gonna finish playing Destiny. And then after 2 months, everyone finished playing Destiny 2 because they went, well, we're done. Like, you ran out of content on us, and your loop sucks. And so that's an enormous company, and even they can't keep up with that.
It's the demand. Unfortunately, I personally think that a lot of the gaming community is very spoiled these days, and I don't think they understand what goes into...
Just down the barrel. Tell them what you think.
I think the gaming community, you guys are a little bit spoiled. Not all of you, but some of you are a little bit spoiled. I don't think people understand what goes into making a game. I don't think people understand what goes into maintaining it. And if you want DLC, you want extra content, there's a bunch of people that have to make that for you. And you can't expect to pay one amount for a game and 6 months to a year later, they've just got budget to give you extra content. And there is that balance where if you want the extra stuff, you will have to pay for it. And I think in that sense...
That's such a good point, because like making a game, you got that terrible word crunch that people are just sacrificing their lives to get a game done. Imagine having to do that every year to make a new game. All of a sudden you can work, if someone said to me, if I was making games for a living and someone said to me, hey, you can work 8 hours a day, but you'll be working on the same game for the next 5 years. Or you can make a new game every 2 years, but you're going to be doing crunch. I'd be like 8 hours a day.
But
give me that, baby.
But
I
then,
want a life.
But if you look at something like Pub versus Fortnite, part of the reason that Pub is suffering right now is that they can't actually iterate faster. I imagine they're in constant crunch because they're like, we got to fix all the like broken shit that was in the game when we released it. Plus, Fortnite just has a team that is swamping us with the amount of content they can put out constantly.
We're getting into a very different conversation where it's indie developer versus Epic Games.
Versus one of the engine developer.
Yeah, the guys who actually built the engine that Pubg runs on.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation.
And before we wrap it up, the last thing, I was watching Jim Sterling video a couple of days ago. You, #1 fan. And he was, of course, getting very angry. But what he was getting angry about is the idea that publishers are seeing games as a service as this loop where you put out content and people play it and then they pay for it and more people come and play it and then you play the game and this loop goes around. But he was saying it's actually a spiral because there's only a certain amount of games that we can all play at any one time.
Yeah.
And if every game is a game as a service, then ultimately, I'm going to play 2 or 3 of them, you're going to play 2 or 3 of them, you're going to play 2 or 3 of them. But a bunch of these games are not going to reach the mass where it becomes a sustainable model. Again, he was pitching that as a bad thing. I feel like that's a good thing because it's going to wean out. It's the same thing as the MMOs that you referenced before where like everyone's putting out an MMO and WoW crushes most of them, a few survive, and everything else sort of goes away. We've had it with shooters, we've had it with RPGs. Season passes, we've had it with like big open world games where people go, this is the new hotness, we're all gonna make it. Some of us will survive, some of us won't, and then we'll take the best bits from that, move on, and find the new genre. And I feel like, it's gonna suck for a bunch of these companies where their games don't land, but that power is in our hands where we go, we want to play this, we don't want to play this, and so the good ones will float to the top, which I think they have. I can't think of too many games that, we're playing now that are games of service that are bad. We've abandoned those games. We abandoned Destiny. We abandoned Battlefront. Like, we've let Shadow of Mordor behind.
Lawbreakers?
Lawbreakers. All 17 people abandoned that game. Like, it's just one of those things where we go, the free market works, guys. Like Fortnite, Pub, Overwatch, Warframe, we're all playing the good things. Now it's time for you guys to have your screen say, I put the question out, what do you think about games as a service? And here are your answers.
And some titles.
The first response came in from Dorosaurus, who says a game like Warframe,
hey,
confirmed, Dorosaurus sitting right next to me, does it the best mostly because it's free to play. If this is the route that video games are going down, then I think it's the ones that stand out are going to be free to play. So again, It is that Hearthstone, which we always come back to, the greatest game of all time. Am I in the shot? Let's just make sure. Am I in the shot? But Hearthstone is the best. Shot. Can I maybe? Oh, okay, interesting. That seems to be. Let me just follow that bad boy. Hearthstone's the greatest game of all time. That is the argument, though, that I like. That I go, MOBAs particularly. Most of them are free to play.
Yeah.
Can't think of a paid MOBA that you have to buy in the first place. And you go, oh, I like it. Now I'm going to start sinking some money into it. Agreed?
Yeah.
Well done, everybody. We agreed. And the next response came in from Sir Latchington, who said, I'm only new to Fortnite, but even without buying a battle pass, everything seems achievable if you're willing to put in the hours. Also, we had better get to liking games as a service, as it's plain to see that's the way the industry is headed.
Definitely.
And finally, @Ponk wrote, the best games as a service I ever played was Clicker Heroes on Steam. After realizing I'd spent close to 600 hours playing that game, it offered the service of reminding me to better prioritize my gaming time. I'm sorry to hear that, Ponk.
Thank you, Clicker Heroes.
600 hours in Clicker Heroes, really?
What is Clicker Heroes?
Oh, it's just one of those games, like the numbers just go up. It's like
you
a
just
nothing
click?
Yeah. Cookie Clicker, do you remember Cookie Clicker?
Yeah, so it's just like, it's like
that.
a fidget, what are those things?
Fidget spinner, mate. Yeah, but with microtransactions.
Right.
There you go.
That's the game we should make.
Fidget spinner, like every spin costs you money? Or the faster it goes, like the more it just drains your bank account?
Like then you can get better fidget spinners.
Real fidget spinners?
No, digital
ones. Okay, because I was about to say, the shipping's really going to just screw us on that one. All right, guys, that is it. Let us know in the comments what you think of games as a service. Are they ruining the industry? Are they the future? Are we in a transition period? Let us know. Also, if you want to name that fish, use the hashtag #NameThatFish in the comments below. Jesse, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Look down the barrel and tell them that they're all greedy. No, what did you say?
You're a bit...
You're all spoiled. You're all
spoiled. Some of you are spoiled. Some of you are spoiled. You're not all spoiled.
You're all spoiled. You are all spoiled.
We are the most spoiled.
Yeah. And while you're thinking about how spoiled you are, why don't you watch some other videos that we made for you for free, you spoiled little brats. There's one right here where Dan's pointing. There. And then there's one down there. There.
Something down here, though.
I think that's the comments. That's where all the hate is.